So before the break, we just practice how to find APQ. Okay, hopefully now you can find APQ 99% of the time correctly, right? Because next part, we're gonna talk about how does APQ affect your graph. Okay, it will totally change your graph if you have a different value of APQ. So in grade 10, right, all the graph you've been doing is straight line, linear function. Okay, grade 11, we are focusing on this curved line. We call it quadratic function. Okay, quadratic function. So this is our standard form, right? Standard form. So assume that, right, the question that they give you, the general form, you already changed to standard form. So now we're gonna talk about how the APQ can help us do the graphing. So we take away the A, okay, take away the P, take away the Q, right? Suppose they are not there, then you are just left with Y equal X squared. So we call that the basic function, okay? The one that doesn't have APQ. Well, A is 1, okay, in this case. So write it on the side, A equal to 1. P is not there, so P is 0. Q is 0. Okay, so we'll see if it's a basic one, what does it look like? So the best way to graph it is to make a table, right? So we will have some negative numbers and a 0 and the positive numbers, okay? So you plug it into our function here, our basic one. So Y equals to X squared. Okay, so to find the Y, you need to square the X values, right? When you finish the table, please raise your hand. Okay, you square each of the X values. Okay, Jenny, what are the numbers for the Y? From top to bottom?
-4.
You need to do -2 squared, right?
Yeah.
So -2 times itself again.
-4.
-2 times -2.
4. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, because the square is squaring the whole X. Okay, so it includes the negative sign. Okay, so -2 squared will give you 4. Next one.
1.
Yeah, and then
0.
yeah.
1. 4.
Yeah, okay. So we have 41014, that's the Y, and then you have the X. Please graph them out. Okay, total 5 points. -2 4. -1 0 0 1 1 2 4. Okay, remember this is a curved line, okay, not a straight line. So do not use a ruler to connect points. It's curved. Okay, once you got a graph, please raise your hand. There are a few things we need to talk about the graph. Okay, first thing we're gonna talk about is the lowest point that we have here, okay? Where is the lowest point? Geoffrey, can you circle the lowest point for us? Yeah, very good. Okay. So the lowest point, that point, we call it the vertex. Okay. And then starting from here, it goes upwards, right? It opens wider and wider, right? So like a mouth, right? This is the teeth, right? Open up, open your mouth upwards. So this graph, we also describe it as opening up. Okay, so write it down. Opens up. Okay, so here we have two things here. One is the vertex. Vertex here is at 0, 0. And the graph opens up. Okay, everyone got this part down? Okay, please raise your hand when you're ready to move on to the right side. Okay, for the right-hand side, same thing. We're gonna compare the two equations, the one on the left and the one on the right. What's the difference, Naomi?
There's a negative.
That's right. Okay, so if you write out the APQ, can you tell me the APQ for this one? Yeah, Naomi, still you?
Oh, A is 1. Is it -0?
Negative 0. Negative 0 is same as 0, right?
Yeah,
So P is 0.
yeah. Q is still 0.
Then it's exactly the same as the first one. Then where's the negative come from?
I don't know.
Negative should be the what? Which values?
A?
Yeah, it should be the A. Okay, think about in our standard form. If I put -1 into here, and then P is 0, so X minus 0, right? Q is 0. Oh, Q is 0, right? I put 0 there. Then I could, if it's 0, I can ignore, right? They are gone. So the -1 just stay at the front, and then X bracket square, you can just write it as X squared. So the negative X squared is the same as -1 times X squared. Okay, so your A is -1. Okay, so that's what the -1, where the -1 come from. Okay, for the A. So for this one, because there's an extra -1, if we use the same X values, okay, still -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. To figure out the Y, you plug it in, right? It will be negative X squared. Okay, in this question, it's negative X squared. The X that you put in is -2. Okay, so the square only affects the brackets, but the minus, the negative at the very front just stay there. Okay, so it'll be -4. Okay, -2 times -2 is 4. But at the very front, the negative, it doesn't move. Okay, so please complete the table. Okay, once you've done that, raise your hand. Okay, Wilson, what are the y values now?
For -1, it's y is -1. For 0, it's 0. For 1, it's -1. For 2, it's -4.
Yeah. Okay, so if you compare the y values, okay, on the left side, compare with the right-hand side, all the y changes, right? Because of the negative, it affects the y. Okay, now please draw the graph. And we'll see what the graph looks like. Okay. First point is at -2, -4. So will be underneath instead. -1, -1, 0, 0, 1, -1, 2, -4. Okay, once you have the graph, please raise your hand again. So, Aaron, where is the vertex?
The vertex is 0, 0.
Okay, so the highest point this time, right?
Oh, highest point. Oh, okay. It's either the -2 and -4. So
The
like,
highest point. Where's the highest point in this
oh,
graph?
highest point, highest point. Oh, I just said it. Yeah, it's 0, 0.
Yeah, 0, 0. Okay.
Yeah.
For the first graph, there's no highest point. Okay. For the one on the left side, it keeps on going up, so there's no highest. For the second graph, because it's going downwards, right? So it doesn't have the lowest point, but it has the highest. Okay. So this is at 0, 0. Okay, and we would describe this one as open down, right? This graph opens down. So by looking at the values of the APQ, okay, the A, that's the difference between the two, right? When A is a positive number, it will open up. When A is a negative number, it will open down. Okay, so we need to write that down. A greater than 0 opens up. A less than 0 opens down. Okay, A controls open up or open down. Okay, because it makes the y value become negative. Okay, when you have a value of negative for A. Okay, we can also call this kind of change a reflection. It's like looking into the lake, right? You can see the reflection of the mountain, right? And it's upside down. So here's the lake, right? Here's the mountain, right? But in the lake, the reflection will be like this. Okay, upside down. Okay, if you got the notes, please raise your hand. Okay, when look at the second part. Okay, Tony, have you copied down everything?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, then raise your hand. Right, so far we only talk about A positive, A negative, okay? And when A is 1 or -1, but A can change, right? If you look at the other example that we did, We have A is 2, right? We have A is -3. We even could have A is a fraction, right? Or decimal, right? So what does that do to the graph? So here we choose a number that's 2. Okay, we'll write it down. A equal to 2. P is still 0 because there's no bracket. Q is still 0 because nothing after the square. Okay, when you get a question, make sure you write down APQ right away. So if that happens, let's find out what would it do to the graph, okay? So just like before, please plug it into the function, okay? All the x values. So for example, first one, it will be 2 times x squared, okay? And the number that you plug it in is -2. So find the answer for each of the y value and raise your hand. Follow the order of operation, okay? Exponent first, and then multiply. Okay, Bernice, what's the y values? Yeah, sure.
I got 8, 2, 0, and then 2 and 8.
8, 2, 0, and then 2 and
2, 8. Yeah.
right. Anyone has question how to get the numbers for those points? So this time, right, if we graph it, okay, let's plot the points first. -2, 8. -2, 8 is all the way to the edge. -1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 8. Make sure you make a curve, okay? And then we're gonna talk about the shape of this graph. Can you raise your hand when you finish this graph? So if I would like you to describe in a sentence what happens to the graph compared to the basic. The basic is the one on the top left, right? Compared with the one that we just got. How would you describe in your own words what happened? Wilson, what would you say about the shape?
For 1 or 2.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Please pay attention. Here is the graph we just got, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how would you describe what changed? What happened to the shape compared to the basic?
It's longer, it's more narrow, and like the tip is more pointy.
Very good, okay? It becomes more narrow and becomes taller, right? Narrower, right? But in math, we want to describe using numbers. So what happens is we can look at our y values. Yeah, more narrow, very good. Okay, so you compare the y of the basic, which is 41014, And the one that we just got is 82028. It's got double, right? So double came from the 2 that we got there. A is 2, so that's what's making it double. And when you make the y double, it goes up faster. Going up faster makes it narrower. Okay, so for this one, we'll describe. Think about it's like a rubber band, right? Here's a rubber band. And then you pull the rubber band in this direction. Okay, and if you do that, the rubber band become narrow. Make sense? So if we are pulling up and down, we call that vertical. Okay, so vertically, and it gets taller. Taller means bigger, right? Expand, or you can say stretched by 2. Okay, so that way it's very precise instead of just saying narrower, right? How much narrower, right? Narrow can be very narrow, right? Or a little bit narrow, right? So we will say vertically expanded by 2. Okay, so that one is very precise. So we're gonna do the similar thing for the next one, all right? We'll start by writing out APQ. And then use the same value, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So I'll let you carry out all these ones, okay? APQ, the table, and the graph, okay? Once you finish everything up to the graph, you can raise your hand. Half times x squared, okay? All right, Geoffrey, what's the APQ for this one?
A is 1 over 2, P is 0, and Q is 0.
All right. Now let's get the y values. We need to plug in -2 into square, right? Into the x, and then square times it by half this time. Okay, Angeline, have you got a table?
2, 1.5, 0, 1.5, 2.
Okay, 1/2, 2. Anyone has question about the table? These are
Yeah,
correct.
Mr. Jason, if you do 1/2, is that like 0.5?
Yeah.
Because if it is, like, do you just like graph it in between one of the squares?
Yes, in the middle of 0 to 1.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so let's plot it. So -2, 2, -2, 2 will be here, right? I use red. So -1 and 0.5, right? So in the middle, right, between 0 and 1. So that's -1.5. 0, 0 here, right? 1.5, 2 and 2. So if you compare with the points, right, it's going up as well, right? It still opens up, but it goes up slower, right? If you compare the points of the y with the basic, okay, compare with the basic. Used to be 4, now it's only 2, right? Used to be 1, it's half. It's all the y value cut in half. So instead of narrow, right, if you want to describe, so Wilson, how would you describe this time?
It's shorter, it's more wide, and like
Yeah.
the opening is more large.
Yes, very good. Okay, so it becomes wider. So it's like a rubber band again, right? Here's a rubber band. Or you think about a balloon, right? Balloon will be a better idea, right? Better example. And then you push the balloon downwards, right? Then it becomes wider, right? Because you push it down. Okay, it becomes shorter, become wider. So, but it affects the y, so we should be talking about shorter, right? Goes up slower. And we want to put into numbers, we can say vertically, right? Because it's pushing it up and down. Vertically, instead of expand, we will say compress. Or you can say shrink, right? Shrunk by half, okay? And that half is because of our a. Okay, a is half, so all the y value becomes half. Any questions so far? So we need to make a conclusion here now, okay? So the a controls a lot of stuff. If a is positive, right, greater than 0 opens up. A is less than 0 opens down, okay? Now, if you ignore the negative sign, right, positive, negative, if a is more than 1, for example, like 2, or 1.5, or 7, right? If a is anything that's bigger than 1, it's going to make the graph taller, okay? Narrower. So if a greater than 1, it will be expand. If a is less than 1, it will compress. But you need to make sure your a, you have to ignore the negative sign. So what happens is we add a symbol called the absolute value. Does anyone know what absolute value means? Can you raise your hand if you heard of absolute value? Only 4 people heard of absolute value? Okay, so I'll explain what that means, right? Absolute value is telling you to ignore the negative sign. For example, let's say if the equation is y equal to -2x squared. So our a is -2, right? So then the absolute value of a, if I put absolute value of -2, right? This 2 bar is called absolute value symbol. Okay, if I put a bar around -2, it will just make the negative go away. So it becomes 2. Okay, so when you talk about expand or compress, you make the negative go away. Okay, you can write down the sign. Ignore negative. Okay, if you don't like absolute value, right? If you find that new name is very confusing, right? You can just think about, basically it's just telling you to ignore the negative because negative controls open up or open down, okay? So if it's this question, right? Y equal negative 2x squared, you will say you have open down, right? Because it's negative. A is negative, open down, but then it's still expand. Because when you ignore the negative, it's a 2, okay? You use 2 to decide if it's expand or compress. Okay, any question? All right, can you raise your hand if you're ready to move on to the last part? We have one more thing, okay, to talk about. So A controls 2 things, okay? One is the opening, the other is expanding or compressing. Okay, last one here. We're adding stuff in now, okay? So this time the A, P, Q. Okay, Kat, what do you think the APQ for this question?
Is A1?
Yeah, A is still 1 right there. And what about P?
Is it 0?
Yeah, P is 0. What about Q?
-3.
Yes. Okay, so P will be 0 if you have no brackets, right? Remember, P has to be inside the bracket, right? If you look at the form, P needs to be inside the bracket. So if you don't see any bracket, that means P is 0. So this is the first time we have a Q values, right? Okay, let's see what happens to the graph. We'll use the same points again. We have x squared minus 3, right? To find the y. So please complete the table and then draw the graph, okay? Once you've done that, you can raise your hand. Okay, so you would plug in -2 for the first one. Okay, Bernice, what are the y values for this?
I have 1, wait, yeah, 1, -2, 0, -2, and 1.
Okay, can you double check one of the point is not right? Did you find it?
No. Oh, sorry. 0 is -3, right?
Should be -3 because there's a subtract 3, right? Subtracted by.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's graph it out. Okay, when you finish the graph, please raise your hand. Okay, try to stay ahead of me. -2, 1. -1, -2. 0, -3. 1, -2. Are you guys done the graph? I'm almost done. Okay, and then connect the point. So if we compare the graph with the basic, okay, you still remember the basic? How about I'll use dotted line, okay, for the basic. I think it was like this, right? Goes up like that, used to be this, right? The green one is the basic. The red one is the one with the Q of -3. And if you want to describe what happens, what would you say, Geoffrey?
It's lower and the vertex is smaller.
Where's the vertex now?
It's -3, 0, -3.
Yes, okay. So this point becomes the new vertex, okay? So it actually changes your vertex now. The whole thing is lower down, okay? Lower down, but we need to be more specific, right? All the points got lower 3 steps, right? 3 boxes down. So the way we describe, we say translate. Translate means moving, okay? Translate down by 3. Okay, down by 3 units. Any questions? Okay, and this one is still open up, right? Open up because the A is still positive, right? Okay, can you raise your hand if you are ready to move on to the last part here? So you can tell that Q controls moving up and down here, right? If you want to move up, then your Q has to be 3. Q is -3, tells you you go down 3, okay? You can highlight that, that's the connection. Okay, Q is -3 means goes down by 3. So if you have a question that has Q is +3, then it will be going up by 3, right? It changed the location of the vertex. Next one was the APQ. Please write it out. Okay, Naomi, where's APQ?
A is 1. P is it 3? And Q is 0.
Yeah, Q is 0 this time. Okay, very good. From the last question, we had Q controlling moving up and down, right? This time we have a P values now, right? P is 3. So what do you think the P controls? Any guess? If Q controls moving up and down, what do you think P should control? Anybody? Yeah.
If it's
Is it left and right?
Yeah, left and right, okay? Now, but we need to be specific here, right? P is a 3. So is 3 for moving to the left or moving to the right?
Left.
Who said that?
Me.
Yeah, Tony. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, Q, look at Q. Q is -3, it will be going down, right? Negative is down. Going up is positive. Going down is negative. Okay, if I want to go to the left side should be positive or negative, Tony?
Negative.
Yeah, okay, so here we have P is +3. We should expect it to move to the right. Okay, translate.
Oh.
Because positive on the x-axis, right? The more to the right, the more positive it becomes. Okay, so translate to the right by 3. Okay, so this is the first time the x value got changed. So it's no longer at -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. All the x has to move to the right side. So -2, if I move it to the right by 3 steps, right? -2 is here. If I move it to the right 3 steps, will be 1, 2, 3. It'll go to 1. Okay, so your first x value should be 1 instead of -2. So we'll start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so please try it. Okay, plug it into the function. This time the function is bracket x, right? X minus -3 squared, right? Your x is 1. Okay, equals. Okay, find each of the table. And once you finished it, please raise your hand. Finish the table and the graph, all right? Okay, the y values, okay, plug into plug in 1, plug in 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, raise your hand when you finish the table. Okay, and yeah, what are the values?
For 1, it's 4.
And then,
1, 0, 1, 4.
okay, so as we can see, it only moves to the right, it doesn't go up and down. So the y value is the same as your basic. Okay, 1, 4, 1, 4 is here. 2, 1, 3, 0. Okay. Raise your hand if you finish the graph. And I'm going to use dotted line, okay, to show that where the original one is, okay? So it looks like that. This is a basic. And then this one, right? Dashed line is the original. Move it to the right. So where's the vertex? Mackenzie, where's the vertex?
You're 3 and 0.
Yeah, very good. Okay, this point is our vertex. It's at 3, 0. Okay, so let's make a conclusion, right? We now know Q controls something, P controls something. Okay, Q controls, or rather on the very top then. Q controls up and down. P controls left and right. Okay, and then if it's positive, it's either up or right. If it's negative, it's either down or left. All right, can you raise your hand if you got all the notes down? So this will finish everything together. Next time we'll practice mix all the 3 rules together. Okay, but this week you get another week to sharpen your skill of changing to standard form, right? Okay, if you finish writing down the notes, please raise your hand. Kat and Tony. Okay, so just quickly review. Okay, we have A positive, A negative, right? Tells you open up and down. Ignore negative if absolute value of A greater than 0, greater than 1, right? Absolute value of A less than 1. And then the Q for up and down, P for left and right. Okay, so this week's homework, because last time I only select a few questions. Okay, this time you will do these part. Okay, let me box it. We'll do this part. Okay, later I'll post it on Google Classroom. So you just need to write out the APQ. Okay, you don't need to describe the opening, those things yet. Okay, just make sure you can get APQ 100% correct. So by now you can see that it affects your graph, right? Very important. So other than Tony, Wilson, and Shanier, okay, if you have question, you can stay after.
Mr. Jason, I'm handing you my homework right now. You should see it soon.
Okay, okay, yeah, right. Okay, see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.